Hello, this is the fifth video in a series on Master Server Toolkit for Unity. This is going to go over implementing a lobby system, and the reason why I'm doing this is really to document what I've been implementing in my own project. Um, Hopefully others find this useful. If there's anything that can be improved, uh, please give me feedback. That would be great. So currently there's no uh, demos for a lobby system in the Master Server Toolkit that I can see. So I've implemented it myself using the existing APIs that the Master Server Toolkit has in it for a lobby system. So this is picking up where I left off from the previous video. Now, that is located in this repository called MST Demo out on GitHub. Um, so if you take a look at MST4, it's kind of starting off from this starting point. And I'll be copying uh, working code from this MST5 whip branch. Now I might create a non-whip work in progress branch after this video and delete this, but I'm not sure. But anyway, let's get started. So with the client scene open, uh, there needs to be a few extra views set up. So what we can do to set these up is we can create them from scratch, or we can copy them from something that has similar UI uh, that we're needing. So with my project, I just copied these things and tweaked them, and that's what I'm going to walk us through today doing. So to start things off, I'm going to create a lobbies list view. And a lobbies list view is going to be based on the games list view right here. So what I'm going to do is right click and duplicate it. And I'm going to rename that to lobbies list view. And in addition to that, I'm going to unpack the prefab. So that way I'm not messing up any prefabs with these tweaks that I'm doing. So that covers copying that piece. So the next thing we're going to copy or create is a create new lobby view. And now this is going to be basically a dialog box to create a new lobby. And so we already have a create new room view, and that one is this right here that has the dialog box in it. So I'm going to right click and duplicate it. And then I'm going to rename it the create new lobby view. And I'm also going to unpack this one as well. Thirdly, I'm going to create a lobby view, which is going to be uh, the actual lobby that a player will be in waiting for a game to start with the other players that are going to be playing in the same game. So I'm going to duplicate this from the games list view. And the games list view is here, so I'll right click and duplicate, rename it to, oops, rename it to lobby view. There we go. And I will also not forget to unpack it as well. Okay, so now we have our three new views created. We need to tweak them to support what we want. So I think actually the first things I probably need to do is since I copied these, I need to drag them over to where they're not overlapping the other views that I duplicated from. So I'm going to highlight the lobbies list view and drag that to the left of where I copied it from. Next, I'll select the create new lobby view and just drag that to the right. Thirdly, I'll take the lobby view and I suppose I'll just drag that to the left as well and then maybe down. Yeah. Okay, so they're no longer overlapping. That's good. So now, starting with the lobbies list view, um, now that we have this duplicated, there there needs to be some logic that needs to change as well. So each one of these views generally has a script that goes along with it that has the same name that acts as the like the UI view model or whatever. So basically, if somebody clicks on a button, that script that's attached to it is going to be have the handler that's attached to it as well, the like the button click handler or whatever. So we have this lobbies list view, but if you select it and look at the inspector over here, you'll see that it's still referencing the games list view, and we don't really want to do that. We want to have our own um, uh, lobbies list view to replace that. So what I'm going to do here is just really create a new script with really the same, uh, I guess, based on the games list view, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then show you how to update the references. So first things first, I need to grab the source, the finished source, and bring this in. So from the repository that I have created, I guess what I could do is do lobbies list view, and then I think this goes, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just switch to my branch, my work in progress branch, and I will click into that source code and find it. So we're working on the lobbies list view, and we need to find the lobbies list view here. And I'm going to view this in like raw mode. So I'm going to create a new script by going in going into the app scripts UI, right click create C# script. It's kind of cut off over here, but bring that over a little more. Okay, so cool. We have our lobbies list view uh, in, well, in the editor. So next thing we need to do is open it up and paste the new logic in there. So double click that. Okay, so we have our editor of the lobbies list view, and I'm going to just highlight all from my repository and paste it over. So now we have lobbies list view with eventually code that's going to work once we get everything set up. So I'm going to save that. This is a little warning because in this script there's an infinity symbol that's not an that's making this cause to say, hey, you need to save this as Unicode, whatever. Yes. Okay, so we got the new logic in there for the lobbies list view. So great. Now what? I think what we need to do is attach that to the lobbies list view game object. So I'm going to leave the games list view attached for now, and then I'm going to attach the lobbies list view in addition to that. Now I wonder why the this component is not showing us the extra stuff. Weird. Why is it not showing all this stuff, you know? That's kind of what happens when you don't do a dry run of the demo, right? So this is, I'm guessing there's like a compile error that's causing it to get confused and not render all this stuff. Um, yeah. Looks like down here we don't have a join lobby. So for now, I'm going to just comment that out. And I'll just flag it with my initials real quick so I can get back to it. I'll just bookmark it so I can get back to it. So this should now render. There we go. Now we're rendering these additional properties. So now the next thing we need to do is start updating in like manner the game object. So here, as we can see on these views, we have an ID that's basically the same name as the script. So we'll go ahead and update that ID there. Next is the title rooms list. So I'm guessing here is this just is going to be, the title is going to be lobbies list. Okay. Next is these shared settings, a couple check boxes. I'll remember what was checked and make sure that it's the same, which it is, so good. Log level, I don't really care too much about its info, that's fine. Next is components. I'll click it to make it highlight in the scene what in the hierarchy we need to bring in. So the title label needs to be updated. Man, that's rough. Okay, title. Oh darn. Unity is just crapping out. Okay, making me lose my references. So this title label should be the same reference as this, which is this header. Okay, so title label, I'm going to drag the header over it. Next we have, okay, these event click handlers are all empty, so that's something we can skip. And lastly, we have these components. So here we have some shared prefabs that we need to start referencing. Okay, well, this is not a prefab, it's just a content node. And Unity stalled there for a second, so now I gotta like go back and re-click it to make sure I'm not pulling the wrong thing in. Okay. And then now the process info label. Okay. After that little painful update. Now, if there's a better way to do this, please let me know. That would be great if I knew a better way, but I haven't really taken the time to experiment with doing this kind of thing. Anyway, so now I think we have sufficiently added this new script and added the references to be the same, so we can go ahead and remove this old script. We don't need it anymore we don't need it to be attached to this view anymore. So we'll remove component, and now we are good to go with this script. We still have that compiler error because we're lacking code somewhere, and I'll go over that later. So really what we need to do is rinse and repeat. So the next thing is let's add excuse me, let's add a new create new lobby view script for this one. Now this is, let's take a look. We're looking for the create new lobby view in the branch of my repo here. So create new lobby view, that's what we're wanting. So that is also in the scripts UI folder. So I'll create a new script in there. Okay, create new lobby view. I'll double click it. And now what we have is something similar, is we have this boilerplate template. We want to replace that with the code that I have here on this repo branch. And I'll go through these things once we get things rolling on what changes were made. Okay, it looks like we have another compiler issue because there are references to things that don't exist yet because I haven't put the code in. So on here, I'm going to comment it out so that way we can start referencing things in the inspector. So I'll bookmark this one as well so I know to come back and minimize, and let's take a look and see what we need to change. All right, so let's go ahead and add a new script, or add a new component. That's create new lobby view. And again, we want to update the ID to be create new lobby view. And here we can just change the title to create new lobby, put some spaces in it so it's easier to read. And now we want to do the similar thing as we did last time. Figure out, okay, what are the settings, and we'll bring those over. So these group of check boxes, check, check, blank, check. So let's see, check, check, blank, check, good. Next set of things is logging is info, that's right. Header again is this node in the hierarchy, so I'll bring that over to the title component reference, and then no events to override. Now that leaves us with the remaining components. So let's see. Okay, room name input. Okay, Unity's taking a while. Good. Room max players. Wow. I think, oh, I see what I did. I can't just do that because that gets replaced later. So, room region input. Do I? Yes, we have that. So I will bring that over. Room region input. And then we have the room password input. Good. Okay, so we're gonna change this little thing later. So I'm gonna say that's good for now, and then I'm going to remove the original script. Save. And next is our lobby view. So same thing. Let's locate the lobby view in this GitHub. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the same UI folder, which it is. Okay, so lobby view, I will create a new script in UI for lobby view. Okay, so what we want to do is, now that we have the lobby view open, we'll just select all and paste it over. Looks like we have more compiler issues over here on this gutter. We have a red flag. All right, that's due to some more code that doesn't exist yet. So again, comment it out, bookmark it so I'll know to come back later. Now the point is we want to get these references updated. Okay. So we have our lobby view. Let's now attach it to the inspector for the lobby view component or game object. Okay. Update the ID. Update the title to be something user friendly. Okay, now let's check, blank, blank, check. Good. Log levels info, good. Header is going to be the same thing, header or title to header. And then no click handlers to worry about. Now we need to start bringing over the rest of these little references. Okay, content. Okay. I think I missed that last one again. Okay, process info. That maps to status info. And again, I want to point out there are two references I'm uh, leaving out for right now because those UI elements haven't been created yet. So we'll go through creating those and re-adding those uh, at a later time. So, all right, that does it for lobby view. So I'll remove the original games list view component. Save. Okay, so now uh, what's next? So I think now what we need to do is add a new lobbies list button to the menu view. So locate the menu view in the hierarchy here. I'm going to go ahead and just unpack this one as well. It makes me nervous working on things with prefabs that I didn't create. Um, but yeah, I'm just going to, this might not be justified, but whatever. Unpack it. Now, this is, I'm going to zero in on it in the scene view. I scroll in here. So what we want to do is add a new button under this games list button and just have it say like lobbies list. So let's locate that in our hierarchy. Okay, so here's our games list. Now, really, I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to put it where I want it to be, drag and drop it. Well, wait for Unity to get its act together. Uh, so now uh, we have our duplicated games list button. Now let's rename it. What should it be renamed? Games list, I guess, lobbies list, right? Yeah. And did I unpack this as well? No, I'm just gonna unpack it, just being religious here, really just scared to mess stuff up. So I need to go back and relearn what a prefab is and what all the side effects come with it and all the gotchas because it's been a while. Anyway, if you know prefabs through and through, you're probably thinking that I'm just going overboard, but whatever. Um, okay, so we renamed our button. Now what we want to do is actually change that label to read lobbies list. And we'll go into the inspector. Now this is funny. We don't actually find the button. There's like this UI button script we have attached here that we need to change in this label value. So I'm just going to paste in there lobbies list. And now we see that reflected in the scene view. Okay, so now after we've created that button, updated the text, we want to update what happens whenever somebody clicks on it, whenever the player clicks on it. So we need to update the event handler. So that way it will actually show the lobbies list view that we created earlier. So to do that, we go to this this button on click area. Now here we have this uh, we have two handlers here, one that hides something and then one that actually shows something. So here this will hide the current view, and then after that we're going to show the next view. But what we want to do is actually show uh, a different view. So here, when I'm clicking on this, we're referencing the games list view, which is not what we want. We want the lobbies list view. So I'm going to bring the lobbies list view over and just plop it right on top of it. Okay. And then we need to go and select the handler that we want to be executed, which is inside the lobbies list view um, menu section. So here we want to show. Okay, so that should be showing our lobbies list view when we click it now. Now, if you noticed that we added this new button, this menu is kind of overflowing at the bottom. That needs to be updated. So to do that, we'll need to go to the let's see, where is it located? I think it is the container. Let's see. No, I think I need to go to menu view panel. Yeah, that's right. So menu view panel, and then I need to update the height. So we'll change this from 240 to 280? Nah, that doesn't look right. Let's try 300. Okay, 300 looks right to me. Okay, so we updated the rendering there for the container size to not look screwy with this new button in there. And when we click it, it should show the lobbies list view. So I think we're good on this piece for now. So we're going to keep going through these and updating these elements and doing the tweaks that we need. So what's next? So I think we need to update now the lobbies list view itself. So I'm going to zoom out on my scene view, click on my lobbies list view, which is here, and I'll zero in on this one. I think there's a menu key you press to do this, but I'm just going to do it the dumb way. I think you can focus in on it if you use like a F, Control F or something. I don't know. Don't listen to me. Anyway, um, so we got our lobbies list, and it's likely not correct, right? So we need to update some of these things. So so to update the elements on this new lobbies list view, we need to update the create new game button to create new lobby. So it's a little bit more correct. So let's locate that button in here. I think it's in the hierarchy. So create new game, and that should be the label on that should be updated. So once Unity lets me do this, I will do it. Okay, so we have this highlighted, and in our inspector, we have this create new game. I'll update it to create new lobby. Now, in addition to that, we need to fix the click handlers. In addition to that, we need to update the click handlers to reference the um, lobby's list view game object. So here we have these orphaned on click handlers for create new game, uh, for create new lobby rather. So we're missing this game object, but what we really need to do is go to lobby's list view and just drag it over on each one of these. And this one, if we remember, this is actually calling the hide method first, so that way it hides the view, and then it will then well, let's see, what are we doing here? Update each new handler is what we need to do. Okay, actually what we need to do is the first one needs to be the lobbies list view show create new lobby view. So show create new lobby view. And then the second one will be the lobbies list view hide. So the first thing we're going to do is show that dialog for creating a new lobby. After that we click go, it'll then hide the current lobbies list view and then just show the lobby itself. So good stuff. Now I think we're done with this. So these references here, I think the next thing we need to do is update the create new lobby view UI. So let's collapse this lobbies list view in the hierarchy, and we will now move on to the create new lobby view. And what we need to do is add a new game type dropdown. So first, what I need to do actually is zoom in on it so we see what's going on in the scene view. Okay. Okay, so when we have a lobby system, you can create, you should be able to create different types of game types. And that's the reason why what I'm about to show you is why I'm adding this new drop down. It's going to be a game type drop down. And it's going to replace this element the second one in this list, which is irrelevant at this point. I think it's called like oh, I forget. It's called something. Let me find it in the hierarchy. Container. Okay, this is the room max players, which, I mean, it might be relevant depending on your game type. However, the game types that I'm implementing, it's not. So I'm going to actually remove it. You might want to leave it in there. But what you'll probably want to do is, this is assuming that you have different game types to select from, is you'll want to add a new drop down to let the user select what game type they want. So to do that, um, we can right click on this container and then go to UI, drop down Text Mesh Pro. And then what we want to do is name it game type input drop down. Okay. And then well, what I did at least is I repositioned it by dragging it up to just below the max players input right there. Now, after that, I added 3 game types or options to it. So I'll go ahead and do that here as well. So to do that is we expand this uh, option here, and let's see. Well, wait a second. Okay, you know what I think I need to do first is add a layout element, because this is throwing me off at not being rendered fully in the scene view. Okay, so I'm adding a layout element, and what I want it to be is a height of 45. So I'm going to update the min height to be 45. Then what I'm going to do is update the preferred height as well with also 45. Okay, now that we have a drop down in our scene view, we can actually reference it now. So what we want to do is select the root game object view, which is the create new lobby view, and then pull this new drop down that we added to the hierarchy into the reference that we have for this script. Okay, now we want to add our options. So to do that, we need to find the drop-down text mesh pro component and expand it, and then locate the options. And I'm going to have three options, and the first one will be survival. The second one, once Unity lets me, will be 1 versus 1, and the third one will be 2 versus 2. Okay, now, now that we have the game type input dropdown added, I think we can remove the room max connections input field. I'm not going to use it. Like I said earlier, you can leave it in if it's relevant. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so now if I recall correctly, there was actually, I think what I need to do next is to update the start room button. Uh, that needs to be updated, the text at least, needs to be start lobby. So I'll select it, go to the label value under the UI button script and update it to lobby. Start lobby, and then now that the text is updated, we need to update the click handler as well. Now that needs to be referencing the root view, and then that root view needs to, now that function now needs to be the create new match method. Okay, now we have that updated. And probably for good measure, we probably want to update the verbiage here from start room button to start lobby button, just to be a bit more accurate on how we're naming things, because a lobby is different than a room, right? So, okay, so we need to update the lobby view. And to do that, we will zoom in and focus on the lobby view. And what we'll need to do is update the columns here. So in the hierarchy, as we can see here, we have all these child game objects that represent these columns, and we need to update those. So to do that, we just need to start deleting some things. So I know right off the bat I don't need 4, 5, and 6 of these column headers. And then in addition to that, I'm not going to need a couple buttons on this other side. And then finally, I don't need this last little column of the row here. Now we have a nice fine mess over here, and it's confusing to look at. So we need to go and update the actual columns for this table. So I'm selecting the content node in the hierarchy, and over on the inspector, there's these calls info. So we need to just delete a few of these until we get the columns that we want, which is 4. I'm going to leave those sizes alone. That should be fine. But now what we need to do is update the text in these labels. So here on this second column, it says game name, when really it should be player name. And then next is address, which this is probably going to be team. And then finally region, we just need to update that to be like is ready. And this will hold true or false if the player is ready. Now on these row sample, we'll leave the first label as 1, and then over here it says demo server. I'll update that text to be demo player. And then next, we'll delete the IP address and make it team A. And then on the last one, we'll delete England and just say true or false. Make it false that they're ready. Okay, so that updates that table to show relevant data for the lobby view. Um, so after that, we need to add a start game button in this bottom tools. And since I want that to be an orange button, I'm going to duplicate this cancel button. And I'm going to rename that cancel button to start game button. And I probably want to move that maybe above here, the cancel button, and then update the text to be start game. So now that we have the start game button set, we need to update the on click handler. And as you can see here, it's kind of messed up. We need to add correct references again. So we'll bring over the lobby node from the hierarchy and apply it to these click handlers. Now on click, what we want to happen is to start the game. So to do that, and you know what? I don't think I need two click handlers here. I'm going to delete one and then select lobby view start game. Well, I don't have I think it's on start game. That's what I want. Good. So now that we have that selected, we can move on, I believe. So let's see here. What's the next thing we need to do? Yeah, let's update the uh, ready button. Uh, let's see, actually not update the ready button. We need to wait for Unity to get done what it's trying to do, and then go to the update button. We're not going to need update list anymore. This is a lobby right now. So I'm going to repurpose this button to be a ready button. I'm going to rename this to ready button. Okay, and then update the label to ready. And then update the click handler, again, adding the proper reference to lobby view. And then I'm going to select the lobby view on ready click. And now create new game. Well, that's no longer something relevant for this, so we're going to repurpose this as well. I'm going to rename this unready button. And on the unready button, this has an extra handler that we don't need, so remove that, but then re-add a reference to lobby view. And to unready, well, let's look for the unready handler and select it. So on unready is what we need. And lastly, we need to update that label to be just unready. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. That might actually make us done with the lobby view. All right, so now what we need to do is go back and revisit the code that we had to comment out because it was causing problems, compiler errors. So we have this lobby view right off the bat. I'm going to uncomment these and take a look here and see what's going on. So lobby view. Um, in order to show and hide it, we need to add some handlers to intercept some events for us. So what I ended up doing is there's some events, like if I go over to this lobbies list view, I'll show you that like Master Server Toolkit has this concept, has a class of event keys. So if you F12 into this one, and for instance, you'll see, okay, well, we have a lot of static strings that map to uh, event names. Excuse me. So, and really, there's a couple in here that I used that I could use. So we have like show create lobby view. I used that one. Show join lobby view and show lobby list view. However, for lobby view, there wasn't a show lobby view that I could find. So I made my own app event keys um, to at least keep that in one place, have my own concept of that. So let's go ahead and create that. So let's find the app event keys in the source. And let's see, app event keys. I believe, here we go. It's in the scripts, app scripts. So I will create that struct. And to create that struct, I mean, really, I just right click. I can do this in Visual Studio, add class, fine. Oh, so my installation of Visual Studio, something screwy here. I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to create this using um, the Unity editor. So in app scripts, I'll create a new C# script. Name it app event keys. Okay, now that we have app event keys opened, I can update it to be the content of this stuff that I have in my little repository branch here. Copy, paste, and that should resolve that red squiggly, which it does. Great. So I'm going to remove this bookmark. I don't need it anymore. Now let's view the remaining bookmarks. Interesting. I don't know why I have a bookmark there, but I'll unbookmark it. Oh, looks like I have another bookmark. Historical bookmark. I'll delete that one as well. Eh, well, I'll delete this one as well. I wonder, did I solve all the bookmarks? No, I know I didn't. So let's go find what I commented out so we can deal with it. Okay, so I just so happened to see it. Matchmaking behavior instance, this thing. We'll uncomment. And we can see that um, for this create new lobby view, the create new match method doesn't have anything that's in this matchmaking behavior instance for creating a new lobby. So I ended up creating my own method for that. And I actually created it inside an extensions class. So that way it's kind of treated like the library code is treated. So that way I don't have to have a whole other class for these same concepts. So let's go ahead and find that extensions class and bring it in. Excuse me. So extensions. Okay, again, in the app scripts, we have this matchmaking behavior extensions. I'll go into raw view and I will create that. Copy the class name. I'm not going to do it here because it's screwy right now. Don't know why it is, but whatever. Okay, so then scripts, create C# script. Okay, now we have our matchmaking behavior extensions. I'm going to just select everything and paste over it. And interesting. I have this old code out here to kind of, I don't need that anymore. I'll clean that up. I'll leave this little note in just for to call out that these different keys that we could use here potentially. And I don't think I need to write any code to use the working lobby, so I don't need to put a to do in here. But yeah, I think that's good. I'll leave this as a note that these exist if we need to customize that, so that's good. And what's next? So we have that added. If I F12 in there, yes, it gets there. So what's next? I'd like to get it working and then I can kind of go over the code, but you know what? I think there is two. We have this create new lobby method in here, but then we have, okay, the join lobby. The join lobby, that is in the lobbies list view. And I probably have that commented out. Maybe. Yes, I do. I remember now. Okay. So I can uncomment that as well. And now what's next? So let me kind of take a look at my code again to see if there's any classes that I'm missing. App event keys, we got it. Lobby, what, matchmaking extensions, it's fine. No, I think, oh, I remember. So there's this lobbies folder here. Now, this is going to control what the settings are for your um, different game types for your lobby. So in order to in order to get these set up, let's go ahead and add a new folder inside our scripts and call that lobbies. And what I'm going to do, since I have lobbies, I'm going to just start copying and pasting. So this, maybe not starting with this one, that's the factory, but, and I'll talk about this later, obviously. But we'll start adding things like, okay, 1 versus 1 lobby factory. So I'll add that. Oh, this dumb thing. I'll add it from Unity. Okay. So while I'm at it, well, while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and just go ahead and just create each one of these now, and then, oh wow, this is painful. Decided to just create these files in the Windows Explorer rather than wait for Unity to take forever to do it. So, okay, so what do we got here? Left, Lobby's Factory. All right, so now we need to get the data inside these. And to do that, I'm going to try to avoid using all these slow editors. I guess I could have just downloaded this and started pulling them in, but whatever. Lobby's factory module, lobby factory module. So let's get that in. Okay. Now what do we do? Match timer. Okay. 1 versus 1 lobby. And survival lobby. Is that already? Nope. Okay, survival lobby. Okay. 2 versus 2 lobby. Okay. Great. Finally got all that source code in there, and I think that might do it for copying the source code over. So let's let Unity do one more compilation. All right, now, um, so for these lobbies to be um, registered, we need to attach this lobbies factory to something. And let's see what I need to do. I'll look at my notes here. Okay, so I need to open up the master scene. So let's open up the master scene. I'll save anything that's the current one. So in the master scene, I need to select the master server. And then I'll expand that and select the spawners module. Now, in the spawners module, I'll need to add component. And for this, I want to add the lobby factories module. So what this does is for the spawner, it's going to go and instantiate our 3 factories for 1 versus 1 lobby, 2 versus 2, and survival factories. So that way, whenever somebody goes to select them, when they create a lobby, they'll have the configuration ready to go. Now, the next thing I think we need to do is attach. I think there's one more thing we need to attach here. So let me find that. I think it's the timer or match timer that needs to be attached somewhere. Now the match timer, I'll check my notes. I need to do that in the need to do that on the room. So let's open up the room. Or room scene rather. So on the room scene, this match timer needs to be attached to the room server. So go and add component. And there we have it. Now, now I guess is the moment of truth. Did all the little UI tweaks and copy pastes even work, or do I need to do some real-time debugging? So let's go ahead and build. Ew, this doesn't have the all combined ones that I had. So I'll just one at a time build the master server and spawner. And as a matter of fact, you know, instead of punishing myself, let's just fix that. In my source, I'll find the app editor, win app builder, and here I created a new menu item that just does the master server and spawner and the client and the room all at one go, just to make it easier. And now when Unity finally gets done here, I can edit this script in here. So okay, so I will paste that I copied right down in there. Good to go. All right. Now that we have that added, we can just select the Three Musketeers. All right, moment of truth. Oh, bummer. Okay. Looks like that error is coming from the lobby view. Ah, I see. Forgot to add a reference to this new Start Game button. So, lobby view. We see we have no Start Game button reference here, so let's add it. Now, in addition to that, I think that does it. Let's see. Anything else? Potentially. Let's see. Let's review. Lobby's list view. Every one of these is referenced or has reference. Same for create new lobby. And now for lobby view, so it should be good. We will try doing another rebuild here. All right, so let's try this again. So we have our master and spawner, our client, additional client, okay. We're in the lobby here. And we'll see if we can see this in the lobbies list now, which we do. Can we join? Oh, we can. Great. Now that we have two people in a lobby, as you can see, it'll show that who's the host and which one is you here. We can ready up. Click the ready button. That's true. So the host can click a ready button, and it's true. Now we can start a game. Which spawns this room, puts us in the room. Nice. And there's an automatic countdown timer that I have that will then destroy the room and hopefully dispose of it. But what I'm seeing here is this room isn't getting destroyed. Interesting. See what happens when I ready up again. Start a new game. Okay, well, a new room's created. Now, for some reason, this room is not getting disconnected. Oh, I forgot to do a set a setting here. Okay. So, I need to destroy that room after we're done with each game round. So, to do that, I need to go, I think it's to room. And then I need to click on the room server. Okay, now here's more of the secret sauce. So here under room server manager, I'll expand that right on out. I need these rooms to terminate, so that way we can start new rooms at later times for each subsequent match. So there's some termination settings. We can either terminate the room whenever the last player quits, or terminate the room when it's disconnected. Really, this is the thing I really need. However, I don't see a problem with also selecting this one, but this first one is terminate the room when disconnected. That's key. And you'll see that in the script that I show you. And what I want to happen next is really a very small delay between these events here and when the room actually gets terminated. I'll just select one and then save that. And now I'm going to take a nap as I rebuild. Okay, let's try this again. Here's our master and spawner. First room, second room. I'll sign in, create a new lobby. I'll join that lobby with this other client, ready up, and start the game. Now that spawns our room. We see this match timer countdown 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it disconnects. So that's what I want. It disconnects and terminates and closes out. So now we should be able to ready up again. Click Start Game. And here we have another spawned room. We're transferred back into the room um, scene. And match timer again going down to 0. And then finally terminating. And we just can rinse and repeat like a traditional lobby now. I'll do it one more time just for grins. Yeah. There we go. Another match timer countdown going down to 0 and then kicking us back to the lobby and closing out. So now that we have a working lobby, um, I'm going to just kind of go over some of the key concepts here from the scripts that we just blindly copied in here. So there were a few things in here that we copied. So the special things are we already talked about the app keys. Um, so those app keys are just keys that control the showing and hiding events for the actual lobby view itself, the list of players, the ready, unready button, that kind of a thing. These just didn't exist in the MST event keys, so I added them to my own app folder. So that way we just didn't have magic strings floating around. The next thing is I guess special thing is this lobby factories module. Now, in order to have a special game type, in order to be able to specify a game type when you create a lobby, it's required that you give a valid registered lobby key or whatever. So it'll make more sense once I go into these factories. So if I F12 into this 1 versus 1 factory, we'll see that we have a iLobby factory implementation that has an ID of 1 versus 1. Now, if you remember, I used this exact value in that drop-down list in that create lobby dialog. So if there's an option in that create lobby dialog, that game type drop-down box that does not get registered within this lobby factories module, then you're going to error out. Okay, so every different type of game that you want to have available, it needs to be registered on the server. And the way that I'm registering my implementation is by having this lobby factories module that just on start goes and instantiates these lobby factories and adds them, uh, registers them to the lobbies module. So here we have the 2 versus 2. That ID is very important. And then we have our survival. Again, that ID is very important. Now, if we take a look a little bit more about what's going on here, um, these lobby factories, these are just whenever somebody goes to create a lobby, well, this factory will create the lobby for them with the correct configuration. For example, you'll see um, minimum and maximum players for this type of game type, survival. As you can see, maximum number of players is 10. But then there's other things to configure. We have this lobby config, which really it has a bunch of defaults that I don't really need to change. And really this play again enabled, I think this is also true, so I might not even, yeah. I don't even need to set that to true. It's already defaulted, but whatever. I'm setting it to true here. So, but yeah, all this does is set various settings for each of these game type lobbies, and it registers them here to the lobbies module. And if we remember, well, this is a mono behavior, and this survival lobby factory needs to be attached to the game object that has a lobbies module component on it, which that is the master server. Let's double check where that is again, just to be sure. So if we go to scenes, master, select master server. No, is it spawner? No, hey, okay. Okay, so I think it's the spawners module. Yeah. So here's our master server, expanding the master server node in the hierarchy, and then selecting the spawners module, we see that I've attached the lobby factories module component here. And that's going to grab a reference of the lobbies module that's also in the same game object, um, as we see here on awake that it does. And then on that lobbies module, this is where we go to add these factories that'll register these different lobby configurations for us. So next thing we want to probably look at is the match timer. Now, I didn't really create any game logic here. I just needed a way to terminate the game uh, and then return the players back to the lobby. And the simplest thing to do that was just to create a countdown timer. And then once that's up, send the players back to the lobby and terminate the room or the game server or whatever. So here, this is what this match timer script is doing. So this match timer script, it's also a mono behavior, so it needs to be attached to a game object, and that game object needs to have a room server manager component, so that way it can grab a reference to it and then listen to a on room registered. So that on room registered event actually has a room controller passed into it. Whenever a room is created, a room controller will be returned from it, and that room controller gives us some abilities that we're interested in to clean up the room when we're done using it. And that cleanup is basically handled in this stop game method. So when this little match timer starts, it starts a little countdown coroutine to let that room run for 10 seconds. After that 10 seconds is up, it executes the stop game, and then this stop game does two critical method calls off this room controller. The first method call is destroy, and destroy will clean up some references, reset some variables for us, and update the lobby state to the preparations state. And then and that's going to trigger the event handler to this lobby state preparations will be when we see that come across in the lobby view, uh, that means that it's going to reload that client scene for us, so that way the players are transferred back into the lobby. Now, we can't just call this because it's still going to let that room.exe hang around, and we don't want that. We want that to be terminated. So in order to do that, we have to close this connection, and closing the connection, since we have the room server manager terminate room connection or terminate room when disconnected set, uh, it'll terminate that room when we close that connection. So these are two very important things that we need to happen in order for this whole lobby to game, back to lobby, back to game loop can happen for us. So these are very important things to call, and the order in which they're called matters as well. So what's next? Um, what other things? So, okay, we have this matchmaking behavior extensions. Now, this matchmaking behavior extensions, basically, if you go and look into the matchmaking behavior class, you're going to see a couple methods that are similar to the create new lobby and join lobby. There's something called like a create new room and a join room, which just didn't exist in here. So I just to keep the API kind of similar, I just created an extensions class so that way my implementations and the client code uh, that's analogous to the room view or whatever is the similar in the lobby view. Um, so basically, if you wanted to compare like create new lobby, this is very similar to the create new room. I even have a note here, right, of copying this code and tweaking it to my desire or my my liking or whatever my needs. Um, so if I go to it, you'll see it's very similar, except I'm kind of doing my own thing with the relevant lobby things, lobby commands. Now, likewise with the join lobby, um, this was maybe there was a join room in here, I think, or something. Maybe not. I don't know. There was something in here that I changed that I got inspired from in the original matchmaking. I just can't find it right now. But yeah, just similar thing. Um, so that's the matchmaking behavior, and those two behavior functions, those are called in those new view logic that I have created out here in the scripts uh, UI section. So let's take a look at the uh, list here. So we have the uh, lobbies list view. So this lobbies list view, if we take a look at this a little more, let's see, I'm trying to look at to see if there's anything special about this versus the games list view. I mean, not really. Um, I think the only thing that's special really is the actual join, um, you know, join button handler. So instead of uh, joining a room, we're joining a lobby. Really, not much going on here. The actual create new lobby view. This one, now, trying to see if there's anything special. Um, not really. Again, uh, okay. This is new. Create new match. This is lobby related rather than room related. And then here's that behavior that goes into the it goes into the extensions, as we can see when I F12'd in there. Um, what else do we have? Okay, so lobby view actually has some more things going on in it. That's not just been room logic that's been slightly adjusted for lobby stuff. Um, so yeah, on destroy, Um, so when this happens is when we're taking the players and putting them into a room for a match. We're needing to unsubscribe on a few key event handlers, so that way, um, we're not calling methods that are going to try to operate on components that have been destroyed or taken out of memory and just null, and just having, um, null reference exceptions being spewed everywhere. So these three need to be managed specially, in a special way to unsubscribe them, and then uh, we reset them and resubscribe to them in this reset lobby method whenever this on start happens. So this on start will execute again whenever a player is put back into a lobby after the match ends. And so in this reset lobby, we're re-adding these handlers for like member unjoined, left, etc. And let's see, yeah, and then based on if the person is the host or not, game host, then we're either hiding or showing that start game button uh, whenever we do the reset lobby. Um, so what else? So the on show lobby event handler, that's just basically the main show view showing logic, which what that does is we'll try to grab out of that message the joined lobby object, so that way we can do various things like either listen for different state changes for the lobby, but then also there's other actions and activities you can do using this joined lobby object, like setting a player's ready state or unready state and other things like that. So what else do we have? And I don't think I need this on lobby status text change. That updates that main label of what's going on at the time. And you know what? I For debugging purposes, I was putting concatenating this, but really now that I think about it, we probably just will be okay just to overwrite this every time, and should be okay since we're no longer debugging. Um, what else? So on lobby state change. Now this is more the bigger thing to consider. So there's a couple things we might want to think about doing. Like if there's a failed to start, we might want to implement something that'll show an error to the user whenever a failed to start uh, state comes across. Now preparations, basically whenever a match ends, the lobby state will go into a preparations mode. And that's when we know that, okay, well, if it's in preparations mode, let's check to see, on subsequent uh, times returning to the lobby, the client scene won't be loaded. So we'll check, hey, is that scene current? Is our current scene the client scene? If not, let's go ahead and load that scene back up for us. I'm not sure if we need to do anything for the starting game server. Maybe that case can just be taken out, but I'll leave it in for now. And then like game in progress, here, this is when the game actually starts. So we go, okay, well, the game is ready to be played, so it's changing to the game in progress state. Let's go and use this joined lobby uh, object and go, okay, let's get access to that room that got spawned for us. And then here we're displaying an error message if something happened that, if an error comes back from this method call. And then on game over, this isn't going to execute because we have our lobby configurations is set to be able to restart a new game rather than just end the game uh, in a final way. So, or I don't know what you call it. Just we're wanting to be able to let players have multiple rounds of games rather than just boom, one game and they're over. They're sent back to matchmaking. We're putting them back in the same lobby with the same uh, list of players. So this game over is really not going to, I don't think, should happen. So let's see, what else are we doing? So, yeah, here we're just kind of flagging if the current user is host or not. And then if this entry in the members list is the current player or not as well, using these is local player or is host. So that way they get some better context from that list of players. Um, and I think that does it. The start game. Yeah, that's just a click handler for the start game button, which will again use this joined lobby object and start the game for us. Yeah. So I kind of ran through things. It's late at night. I might have fumbled through quite a lot. Hopefully some of this was clear. I'm going to update the branch with the relevant changes on there for you to take a look at yourself. And yeah, if there might be better ways to do some of these things. If there are, I'd love to hear it. So that's kind of part of the reason why I'm doing this. So anyway, good luck implementing your lobby system.